just a little bit of background on Kohler, and I know most people are familiar with Kohler, but there's a lot of things I find out that people don't know about our company, so I wanted to share a few general facts. Kohler was founded in 1873. It's still a privately owned company by the Kohler family. Herb Kohler is the chairman and CEO of the company. He is the grandson of the founder of the company. The kitchen and bath business, of which I'm a part, is the largest and best known part of the company, but it's only one of 4 Kohler businesses. We also have a power systems group, an interiors group, and a hospitality group that runs the American Club Hotel and the golf courses up in Kohler. Our mission statement speaks of delivering a sense of gracious living to everyone who's touched by our products and services. We're primarily a consumer-driven company, and we certainly try to develop products and services that are going to meet people's needs today and in the future. So my role at Kohler really is to understand how water conservation and more broadly sustainability affects how consumers choose plumbing products, and then to help our new product development engineering folks make good decisions about what types of products are going to be needed. I'm really pleased to be at this symposium because having listened to the first day and a half of the session, there's a lot of people who've been speakers here who over the past few years have helped shape my opinions about what needs to be done from a water efficiency standpoint and a plumbing product standpoint. And so it's good to see everyone again, and it's also good to be able to share with you some of the things, the insights that Kohler has. We recognize that we don't have a monopoly on good information. There's other companies, other manufacturers who have different perspectives on what needs to be done and how it should be done. I think a symposium like this is a great venue to share those things. You know, if we disagree, we disagree, and we can work through those kind of disagreements, but I think in general, it's useful for each of us to understand where the other is coming from. So that's really my purpose today, is to talk about our perspective on one particular part of this, which is toilet performance testing. So really to kind of ground this, and I know that in some ways I'm preaching to the choir here when I talk about the need for water conservation and water efficiency, but I think it's important that all of us remember that a lot of people out there haven't heard this story, or they aren't really paying attention to this story. And it's important that if we're really stakeholders in making a more water efficient infrastructure, that we have to be able to tell this story over and over again. And so some facts that I think are relevant that really play well with a lot of different types of consumers are the fact that water rates are increasing. This is something that most people are aware of, people either who are paying their own residential water bills or facility managers who are paying water bills for large facilities. They understand that water rates are going up. Double-digit rate increases are fairly common. There's no real end in sight to this. It's really being driven by infrastructure and raw material costs much more so than water costs. So the economic benefits of conserving water are going to increase over time. Many cities are on a fixed supply, and they're either implementing aggressive water conservation plans, or they're looking to secure new sources of water. Generally, these new sources are more expensive than the old ones, and they take a certain amount of political capital to secure them, and we've seen that recently with Las Vegas. The demand for water is growing in many of the same regions that have stressed supplies. I don't know why people are moving to California and Florida instead of moving to Wisconsin. I don't understand that. So we got plenty of water in Wisconsin. We also know that total residential water demand varies widely, but indoor water consumption is fairly uniform. And there really are no good single sources of data on this, but if you compile data from different sources, we estimated about 1/3 of the potable water that's produced by municipal water utilities ends up going through indoor plumbing fixtures and faucets, and that works out to about 14 to 15 billion gallons of water per day. Number's got a little bit of error range to it, but it kind of gives you an order of magnitude of what we're talking about. And from the often quoted AWWA study in 1999, we know that toilets are still the largest user of water in most homes, particularly older homes. And the number that comes up is about 27% of the water that's used inside your home is being flushed down the toilet. So obviously toilets have been a focus of historically of water conservation efforts in residential settings. As we move past toilets, we're now looking at shower heads, we're looking at faucets and some of the other indoor applications. But I'm going to talk about toilets today just to keep things on schedule. So as everyone knows, 1.6 gallon per flush toilets have been required since January of 1994. But in the past couple of years, many models of high efficiency toilets that use 1.28 gallons per flush on average or less have become available. This is really being driven by water utility fixture replacement programs and green building programs, and it's now being promoted in many retail outlets by WaterSense partners. As of this week, EPA's WaterSense program has 55 manufacturing partners, 53 retail partners, and 200 models of high efficiency toilets certified to carry the WaterSense label. I won't spend much time on WaterSense because we've got Roy on the podium after me and he can share a lot more information about the program itself. But whether it's an HET or a 1.6 gallon per flush toilet, consumers want to know that they are buying a good toilet, and they want to be able to identify a toilet that can meet their needs. I mean, it's really the purpose of the WaterSense program. It's toilets that carry the label have to be able to pass 350 grams as described in the maximum performance or MAP test. And this test is performed by certified labs, and it represents one aspect of toilet performance. Another situation we're certainly following is the proliferation of new local and state regulations popping up across the country that are attempting to reduce water use of plumbing products, and often without consideration of how the market works or how long it takes to make this transition in a rational way. It's clear to me that some sort of national effort is required to help unify this transition towards more water efficiency. I know this has been something that's been debated and discussed quite a bit too, but I think that we're really at a point where we need to do more in this area, and there are efforts going on right now to do that. While 1.6 gallon per flush toilets have been required since 1994, various studies have estimated that there are still around 100 million 3.5 gallon per flush toilets still in service in the United States. This is a key point, okay? Well, we can still make a large impact on water efficiency in this country just by getting these old toilets out of service. And whether we replace them with a 1.6 gallon per flush or a WaterSense HET, we're going to get a lot of benefits from doing that. And just to put this into perspective, I mean, John and Bill yesterday had their top 5 water efficient new technologies. Okay, and they ascribed a certain reasonably expected water savings that you could get from this. If we assume that we could replace 50 million 3.5 gallon per flush toilets with 1.6 gallon per flush toilets, that's about, and every toilet gets flushed on average about 7 times a day. That works out to about 700 million gallons of water per day, or 250 billion gallons of water per year that we could save just by replacing half of the old toilets that are still in service. It's a huge opportunity. It's an opportunity for consumers to save water on their water bills, for manufacturers to sell more toilets, and we're all in favor of that, for contractors to do the installation work, and for the environment. It's rare when all of these stakeholders have the same interests, and so we see this as a huge opportunity for all of us to really put a push on to get as many of those old toilets out of service as possible.